Thanos wiped out half of all life with a single finger snap. Nurse Ratched destroyed minds with a clipboard. This is the top 25 most evil villains of all time, ranked from worst to most diabolical. Scar commits fratricide, child psychological destruction, and deliberate kingdom starvation, all in a G-rated movie marketed to 6-year-olds. And somehow Disney thought the jealous uncle angle was the light version. He engineers a stampede to kill Mufasa, claws his own brother off a cliff while mocking him, then convinces a traumatized cub the whole thing was his fault. Simba spends years in exile while Scar runs the Pride Lands into literal famine. A calculated fratricide, a psychological demolition job on a child, and mass starvation for jealousy. D tier. Nurse Ratched never throws a single punch. No weapon, no superpower, no army, just a clipboard, a soft voice, and a psychiatric ward's worth of institutional authority.
If Mr. McMurphy doesn't want to take his medication orally, I'm sure we can arrange that he can have it some other way.
Louise Fletcher won the 1976 Academy Award playing her, and the American Film Institute ranked her among cinema's greatest villains, which is remarkable because her entire method is paperwork and passive-aggressive cruelty. She dismantles Randall McMurphy psychologically, brick by brick, then signs off on a lobotomy when words stop working. The scariest villain on this list so far did it all in sensible shoes. C tier. Commodus smothers his own father, the philosopher-emperor Marcus Aurelius, the second he learns the throne is going to someone else. No hesitation, no grief. Then he orders Maximus's wife and child slaughtered before breakfast. Joaquin Phoenix plays him in Gladiator 2000 as a man who rigs arena fights, demands divine worship, and somehow still needs daddy's approval from beyond the grave. The thing is, the real historical Commodus literally declared himself the reincarnation of Hercules, which means the film actually undersells him. Patricide as a career move. B tier. Dolores Umbridge runs the Ministry of Magic's bureaucratic torture program from behind a desk covered in kitten plates. She sentences a teenage boy to carve words into his own hand with a blood quill, not as punishment for violence, but for telling the truth. She bans student clubs, controls the curriculum, and installs herself as High Inquisitor with ministry backing. In a 2007 fan poll, she outranked Voldemort as the most hated Harry Potter character, which honestly makes sense. Voldemort wants power. Umbridge just enjoys the paperwork, state-sanctioned sadism in a cardigan. C tier. Amy Dunn doesn't lose her temper, she loses it strategically. Gillian Flynn published Gone Girl in 2012. David Fincher's 2014 film grossed $369 million worldwide on a $61 million budget. Amy spends approximately 2 years constructing a false diary, faking her own murder, framing her husband for it, and then returning home as the traumatized victim, all because marriage got boring. She even kills a man along the way just to clean up her timeline. I'm so much happier now that I'm dead. Premeditated, patient, and absolutely unbothered. B tier. Patrick Bateman has a $570 business card printed on bone white Cillian Rail font, and he will absolutely murder you for having a better one. Bret Easton Ellis published American Psycho in 1991. Kristen Bale made it flesh in 2000. Bateman is a Harvard-educated Wall Street VP who owns a $2 million Manhattan apartment, wears $800 Valentino suits, and reserves tables at Dorsia. He also dismembers coworkers with a chainsaw. The thing is, nobody notices because in 1980s yuppie culture, everyone is too narcissistic to pay attention. I have to return some videotapes. Terrifying precisely because he fits right in. B tier. Gus Fring runs an $80 million meth empire out of a chicken restaurant, and not metaphorically, Los Pollos Hermanos is the actual distribution network, right there on the corner with a drive-through window and a loyalty card. He manages 14 franchise locations across the American Southwest, launders cartel money through legitimate supply chains, and maintains a spotless DEA informant record simultaneously. He speaks 4 languages, funds a university chemistry lab, and donates to law enforcement charities. Then he slits a cartel enforcer's throat with a box cutter while wearing a plastic apron, smiles through it, folds the apron neatly. I hide in plain sight, same as you. The thing is, Walter White spent 4 seasons terrified of this man, and Walter White made bombs for fun, quiet, methodical, genuinely impossible to rattle. A tear. Iago operates with no army, no throne, no murder weapon, just words, timing, and an almost surgical understanding of human insecurity. Shakespeare wrote him in 1603, and he spent 4 centuries proving that the most dangerous person in any room is the one taking notes while everyone else talks. He plants suspicion in Othello's ear about Desdemona, engineers every confrontation, then stands back watching the wreckage with clean hands. 0 personal gain, pure spite dressed as loyalty. I am not what I am. A man who destroys an entire world just to feel something. Somehow that's worse. B tier. Anton Chigurh doesn't have an army, a throne, or even a motive. He has a cattle gun, a coin, and absolutely no interest in your opinion on the matter. Javier Bardem won an Oscar for the role in 2007. Chigurh operates on a single philosophical principle: your fate was decided the moment the coin left his hand. He's killed bounty hunters, sheriffs, civilians, and people who simply had the wrong motel room number. No grudge, no profit, no emotion. Call it.
Call it. Call it, yes.
Most villains want something: power, revenge, recognition. Chigurh just wants to complete the transaction. He's less a person and more an event horizon and a bowl cut, which sounds funny until you realize he's essentially undefeatable because there's nothing to negotiate with. McCarthy's philosophical monster of pure randomized evil. B tier. Now we're past the coin flip philosopher and into something arguably worse: a man who doesn't want anything at all except to watch it burn. Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight 2008 is a $185 million film's central argument that chaos needs no justification. He burns $68 million in cash in a single scene, not to steal it, not to launder it, just to make a point to a crime boss who thought money was leverage. He has no confirmed origin story, no headquarters, no real name, no financial motive. He blows up a hospital in a nurse's costume, crashes a fundraiser, and tells 2 men they can save each other if one dies first. I'm not a monster. I'm just ahead of the curve.
See, I'm not a monster. I'm just ahead of the curve.
Every villain before this wanted something you could theoretically take away: power, revenge, control. The Joker just wants the city to prove that civilization is one bad day from collapse. Ledger died before the film released. The role earned him the Academy Award posthumously in 2009. The agent of chaos who broke the curve. B tier. Judge Holden makes Anton Chigurh look like a man with reasonable boundaries. McCarthy wrote him in 1985 as a 7-foot hairless, ageless giant who scalps men, dances naked on a rooftop with a rifle after battle, and manufactures gunpowder mid-campaign from bat guano and urine. He speaks 4 languages, plays fiddle and lectures on philosophy while personally murdering everything he encounters, including infants and dogs. He doesn't hide it. He announces it. Whatever in creation exists without my knowledge exists without my consent. He claims war is God. He claims he will never die. And across the entire novel, McCarthy never definitively proves him wrong. No origin story, no motivation beyond dominion, just a dancing, philosophizing engine of absolute annihilation. The only villain on this list who might actually believe he's right. A tier. Cersei Lannister controls the Iron Throne, commands Lannister gold mines producing roughly 50,000 gold dragons annually, and makes every political alliance feel like a trap she designed 3 moves back. Then in season 6, she gets bored of courtroom politics and blows up the Great Sept of Baelor with wildfire, killing the High Sparrow, the Tyrells, hundreds of civilians, and every person who inconvenienced her that week. She pours a glass of wine and watches from the Red Keep window. Her own son sees it from across the city and jumps from a tower, and she refills her glass. Cersei never once claims to be the hero. She's fully, consciously, unapologetically the monster which somehow makes every other villain on this list look like they're still working out their brand. B tier. Killmonger graduates Navy SEAL, earns degrees from MIT and Oxford, infiltrates Wakanda legally, and defeats Black Panther in ritual combat all by 30. His plan: redistribute vibranium weapons to colonized populations worldwide. 2 billion people all over the world who look like us, their lives are about to change. The thing is, he's not wrong. Colonialism, generational theft, systemic inequality, his grievance is historically airtight. He's just planning a global arms war as the solution, which is where most audiences quietly stop nodding along. The first MCU villain who made the heroes feel like the problem. B tier. John Doe doesn't show up with a weapon or a manifesto. He shows up with a plan that was already finished before the movie started. Kevin Spacey's 1995 C7 character commits 7 murders across 7 days, each staged around a deadly sin: gluttony, greed, sloth, lust, pride, envy, wrath, documented in 2,000 handwritten journal pages recovered from his apartment. Then, mid-film, he voluntarily turns himself in to the detectives hunting him. Become the 7th sin. Become wrath, because he mailed Detective Mills's wife's severed head to the desert, knowing Mills would shoot him. Envy, wrath, his own death completes the sequence. The killer designed a plan where the only way to stop him was to help him finish it. Evil that doesn't lose it just clocks out. A tier. Immortan Joe isn't subtle about his evil. He built an entire religion around a water tap. In George Miller's 2015 Mad Max Fury Road, Joe controls the Citadel, a post-apocalyptic fortress carved into a desert rock formation where he rations drinking water to thousands of starving, desperate people while commanding an army of chrome-huffing suicide soldiers called War Boys, who genuinely believe dying in his service earns them a place in Valhalla. He keeps roughly 150 women as captive breeding wives. 150. Do not, my friends, become addicted to water. The man weaponized hydration. He turned a basic human necessity into a loyalty program, a chrome spray can into a sacrament, and starvation into devotion. A tier. Thanos didn't want power, money, or a throne. He wanted to murder half of all living beings in the universe and have everyone thank him for it. In Avengers: Infinity War, which pulled $2.005 billion at the box office in 2018, Thanos spends the entire runtime collecting 6 Infinity Stones across multiple galaxies just to snap his fingers and erase half of all life, trillions of beings. Gone, his justification: overpopulation, resource scarcity. He called it balance. I call that mercy. The thing is, he genuinely believed it. No rage, no sadism, just calm cosmic arithmetic that concluded genocide was the responsible choice. He's essentially a sustainability consultant who skipped the spreadsheet phase entirely. S tier. Magneto survived Auschwitz as a child, watched his family die, and decided the lesson was that humanity would always turn on mutants. Then he tried to forcibly convert world leaders into mutants at a United Nations summit, built a machine that could have killed every non-mutant on Earth, and called it self-defense. Ian McKellen plays him with such quiet dignity that audiences spent 3 films quietly rooting for the genocide plan. I've been at the mercy of men just following orders. Never again. The thing is, he's not wrong about history. He's just catastrophically wrong about the solution. A tier. Voldemort split his soul into 7 Horcruxes: a diary, a ring, a locket, a cup, a diadem, a snake, and an infant named Harry Potter who wasn't supposed to count just to avoid dying. He murdered that infant's parents on Halloween 1981, then spent a decade as a barely alive parasite attached to someone else's skull before rebuilding a body using a dead man's bone and a servant's severed hand. His name was literally too terrifying for an entire wizarding civilization to speak aloud. There is no good and evil, there is only power, and those too weak to seek it. J.K. Rowling introduced him in 1997 as children's literature's ultimate bogeyman, noseless, voiceless, apparently unkillable, and built a $25 billion franchise on the premise he was coming back. He always was. A tear. Walter White started as a high school chemistry teacher making $43,700 a year, and then cancer happened. And apparently, that was all the permission he needed. By the time Breaking Bad ends, he has cooked over $80 million worth of methamphetamine, dissolved bodies in acid, poisoned a child, and watched Jane Margolis choke to death on her own vomit while standing 3 feet away doing nothing. The thing is, he spent 5 seasons letting everyone around him believe it was for his family, medical bills, legacy, survival. Then in the finale, he finally said it out loud. I did it for me. I liked it. I was good at it. And I was alive. That one confession retroactively reframes the entire show. He was never a good man pushed to extremes. He was a villain who needed a reason to start. And the most diabolical part, he made you root for him the whole time. S tier. Hannibal Lecter spent 11 years locked inside a glass cage at the Baltimore State Hospital for the criminally insane. No sunlight, no contact, no cutlery. And somehow he still managed to be the most composed person in every room. Thomas Harris built a $1.6 billion franchise around this man. The 1991 film grossed $272 million worldwide on a $19 million budget, swept all 5 major Oscars, and Anthony Hopkins played Lecter for exactly 16 minutes of screen time. 16 minutes. That's it. He is a board-certified psychiatrist, a Renaissance-level artist, a gourmet chef, and a man who once folded a guard's face into an origami mask to escape federal custody. I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. The thing is, AFI didn't rank him the greatest film villain of all time because he was scary. They ranked him first because he was charming. And that's somehow worse. S tier. Before Hannibal Lecter, before Voldemort, before every manipulative soul-corrupting monster on this list, there was one original. Milton published Paradise Lost in 1667, and in it he did something no one expected. He made Satan sympathetic, charismatic, articulate. The first villain with a manifesto. Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. That line. 400 years old and it still hits. The thing is, Satan didn't just rebel, he weaponized pride itself, corrupted humanity's entire existence, and did it all through persuasion, not force. No army needed. Just one conversation with Eve and he dismantled paradise permanently. Every villain above him on this list owes him a royalty check. Iago's manipulation, Hannibal's charm, Amy Dunn's calculated patience, all direct descendants. Literature's founding villain. Obviously, S tier. Alright, we just gave Satan his crown for inventing the whole villain playbook. But here's the thing about every name on this list so far, they're fictional. Characters, constructs. Amon Geith was real. SS Hauptsturmführer commanded the Krakow Paz concentration camp in German-occupied Poland from 1943 to 1944. He didn't write manifestos or scheme from shadows. He woke up in the morning, walked onto his villa balcony, and shot prisoners with a sniper rifle before breakfast. For sport. Documented, witnessed, confirmed at Nuremberg. Rolf Fiennes portrayed him in Schindler's List in 1993, and Spielberg apparently had to restrain the portrayal because the documented reality was considered too extreme for audiences to believe. The camp held roughly 25,000 prisoners, Vaith was personally responsible for thousands of direct murders aside from the broader Holocaust machinery he administered, contributing to a death toll of 6 million. He was executed by hanging in Crockway in September 1946. Fiction borrows from men like him. That's the terrifying part. S tier. Darth Vader, the man who blows up an entire planet Alderaan, population in the billions just to get Princess Leia to give up rebel coordinates. She gives them up. He destroys the planet anyway. Classic, and this is the guy who became the $32 billion template every modern villain copies. He force chokes his own officers for mild incompetence. He walks into a Jedi temple and personally slaughters a room full of children. The youngling scene, not implied. Shown, he then spends 20 years hunting the last surviving Jedi across the galaxy from inside a life support suit because he was too impatient to finish his training. Vader works because underneath the helmet is a man who chose this. Anakin Skywalker had every advantage, gifted, trained, loved, and still picked power over everything. That's not accidental tragedy, that's the whole point. I find your lack of faith disturbing. Delivered while force choking an admiral, calmly, in a meeting. Every cinematic villain since 1977 has been measured against that image. Black armor, mechanical breathing, absolute authority, zero hesitation. Fiction invented him. Fiction still can't beat him. S tier. Then there's the one who didn't need a screenplay, a director, or a $200 million budget. The devil has been the credited architect of human evil across Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, roughly 4 billion living believers for over 3,000 years. Every war, plague, temptation, and atrocity in recorded history has had his name attached somewhere in the footnotes. He apparently corrupted paradise, toppled the first humans, and personally inspired every villain on this entire list. 0 confirmed body count. 0 verified appearances. Just infinite attribution and a surprisingly strong branding operation. Undisputed, unranked, unkillable, S tier. Subscribe to the channel for more tier lists. See you next time.